We have Todd Stevens versus Tim Mueller.
It's going to be a lot of pressure for Todd Stevens to get on the battlefield quickly. An early serve into the conduit will help him start casting planeswalkers. A little bit light on removal spells. There are 2 copies of a Braid in the deck, which he'll want to draw to check any Winding Constrictors for Mueller.
Now, on Tim Mueller's side, what his deck has done is it's actually bigger than most black-green energy decks you expect to see. He has Constrictor, Siphoner, Ballista, but no copies of Long Tusk Cub, no copies of Greenbelt Rampager. So instead, he's main decking Bristling Hydras, Tireless Trackers, and Ronus the Indomitable.
He has 2 copies of Ronus, in fact. Pretty big on that one. I suppose it's not difficult for this deck to have a large creature. He just wants to really beat down with that.
I mean, if he's concerned about these sweepers we were talking about, this strategy makes sense. But he certainly is losing a lot of just his across-the-board percentages by not playing Cub and Rampager.
Yeah, Cub on turn 2 in this matchup looks mighty nice.
Well, Todd on the play will make Servant of the Conduit. I can say from the black-green side, you're always concerned on this opening. If your opponent turn 3s a Chandra Torch of Defiance, you usually just lose.
Right.
And Glint Sleeve Siphoner making an energy from Tim. On Todd's side, it's going to be Whirler Virtuoso. Brings him up to 5 energy. Does not use the extra mana just yet as he passes. Chooses that over. Looks like he had some other options there. Bristling Hydra in hand.
Virtuoso does a pretty good job of checking the Siphoner as well. Can bring a Thopter token about. And Todd Stevens not playing a deck that has much in the way of energy payoffs.
Right.
So making the tokens is pretty free for him.
Tim's going to cycle his 1 main deck copy of Dissenter's Deliverance. Oftentimes you don't see this card in the main deck of energy builds. In the Grim Flayer decks you'll see this be played. That's why you only actually see 1 out of Tim.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps a little bit concerned about having to punch through a bunch of Oketra's Monument tokens. Of course, Heart of Kirin can be a problem for any deck in Standard.
Glint Sleeve Siphoner will attack. Gets him another energy. This is a check here. We'll see what Todd wants to do. He'll make a Thopter. Go ahead and call this one. Looks like all 3 creatures blocking. And Tim will just let the Siphoner trade with the Servant. So that triple block was a check, it looked like, on something like Fatal Push.
More likely a check on a Pump Spell, a Blossoming Defense that would be able to punch through the Virtuoso.
Walking Ballista, the follow-up for Tim, and Todd will swing back. Right now, the black-green energy deck not doing anything too terribly threatening. You see Todd's going to get to add Bristling Hydra to the board.
Yeah, running Ballista out on 1 on turn 3, not the biggest play. And Todd can be doing things a lot more powerful than Bristling Hydra. This really isn't the matchup that this card is for. That's really going to shine against things like the blue-red deck, where you want something that's difficult to hit with spot removal and can outgrow any kind of sweeper effect.
This matchup has a lot to do with just raw stats, and a 4-3 for 4.
There's going to be a lot of games where the green-black deck really outsizes that. We're not playing that kind of game just yet.
Now, Bristling Hydra out of Tim's deck, which is his play, that's actually a lot scarier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Tim having the Hydra here, he kind of wish on his side of the battlefield that he still had that Siphoner.
To draw extra cards.
Right. And Tim really wasn't under much duress in the face of the Virtuoso either. And we saw there Todd got up to 4 mana and didn't have much of a payoff, so the Servant wasn't a huge loss.
Yeah, well, Todd will continue with the value plan here. It's Rogue Refiner, drawing him a card, bringing him to 8 energy. That'll draw him into another copy of Oath of Nissa.
Yeah, really heavy on lands is Todd Stevens.
Yeah, plays Aether Hub, says go. He leaves up Harnessed Lightning. Sends Harnessed Lightning, land number 6, and then another Oath. And you look how Todd not attacking here. He could have used Bristling Hydra to force a trade or do some damage. This feels like Todd is confident in his late game right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his deck's really not built to just get in some chip shots with the Hydra. He's trying to pay off with some Planeswalkers. He's hoping to find a nice one with that Oath of Nissa. He also has pressure in the air. He'd love to convert this energy into more Thopter tokens, win the game that way.
Well, and you know, on the surface that makes sense, but now I'm starting to look at how the decks are built. So Todd is the one with Long Tusk Cub, whereas Tim Mueller, the Black-Green deck, he's the one with Ronuses and Tireless Trackers. If this turns into a mid-range fight, it might actually be close.
If Tim's not setting up Winding Constrictors, casting Verdurous Gearhulk, his cards are just smaller.
Right.
He needs some specific synergies to really pay off.
Yeah, I mean, the card Ronus would be great. You see here's Rishkar. And Rishkar plus Walking Ballista actually can be a threat in these matchups, just because of all the extra mana it makes you capable of producing.
And getting the Ballista large, that makes it really easy to manage these Thopter tokens from Stevens.
Rishkar targets Walking Ballista and Bristling Hydra. Both those happen. Todd not pulling the trigger just yet on Harness Lightning. 2 forests in hand for Mueller. So the prize looks to be that Walking Ballista. Team would love that card to stay alive. And it looks like it's going to happen. Todd shoots off Harness Lightning, but he shoots it at Glintsleeve Siphoner. That's one that Tim's going to be okay with.
Yeah, and killing the Siphoner there, that makes sense for Stevens. Everything on the board is kind of at parity.
Yeah.
Small edge going to Stevens with those Thopter tokens. Drawing extra cards is pretty threatening on Mueller's side.
You see next turn with that untapped land, Tim will actually have 8 mana. So we're looking at 2 counters a turn on Ballista. Long Tusk Cub, the draw for Todd Stevens. He'd love to find a Nicol Bolas. He'll cast Oath of Nissa. Land, Attune, Servant. Not great.
He's a little bit off of casting Nicol Bolas just yet. He does have his 6th land drop rolled up, though.
Yeah, not too far away is Todd Stevens. Pair of 2 drops to go with that land, so he'll swing with 2 Thopters. Wonder if anything else is going to join the fray. No, just the 2 damage. Tim to 14.
And once Tim starts activating that Ballista twice a turn, that's going to turn off this Thopter plan really quick. Todd's not getting any incidental energy.
And Servant to the Conduit from Todd Stevens. Actually, just play out the whole hand. Use Spend an Energy to cast Long Tusk Cub as well. So there is everything. Now 7 creatures in play for Todd, including 9 energy, so maybe even 3 more Thopters. We'll see if Todd's going to just try to become aggressive. Never to return the draw for Mueller.
The Virtuoso and the Long Tusk Cub are both relevant threats on the battlefield here. Given that the Ballista does such a good job of checking the Virtuoso, I'm more inclined to go for the Long Tusk Cub on this board. Currently, Todd has a lot of energy stockpiled. He could get that Long Tusk Cub up to a 6 straight away here. And that's the most toughness that Mueller can currently give his Bristling Hydra.
Right. And there's even some price. If Todd makes Thopters, it means that he'll lose the Bristling Hydra fight. So he can't just, it's not guaranteed we're going to see 3 end-of-turn Thopters. Here's Never to Return. And yeah, Tim does select Long Tusk Cub. Tim's going to say go. He looks like he decides to leave up that Ballista activation instead of casting Return. Remember, those 2 creatures with 1/1 counters can make green mana thanks to Rishkar.
Ideal draw for Todd Stevens, Glorybringer.
That'd be great.
Big flying threat, can deal with that Ballista. That's exactly what he wants.
Todd holding on end step. Does he want Thopters? And this actually might be a spot. Yeah, Todd's going to make Thopters. Honestly, if he doesn't make Thopters, I was going to expect him to actually start attacking with the Bristling Hydra.
Yeah, force some action there.
Another Hydra drawn from Todd. That'll play.
Yeah, it's worth 3 energy. At worst, it converts to a 4/3 and a Thopter.
Yeah, I mean, if Todd can get these Hydras to trade, I think there's some incentive for him to do that.
Yeah, it does start, one bigger on the front side. So even if you have one fewer counter, you still force to trade, and that'd be the situation we're looking at.
And that's what we see. Todd's going to swing the 3 Thopters, and now Bristling Hydra will join too. This makes a lot of sense from Todd Stevens.
And Todd's beginning at some chip shots. I'm expecting that he's going to get that trade he's looking for.
Yeah.
And once that Hydra's out of the way, it makes Stevens' smaller creatures a lot better. You can attack a 2/3 and a 3/2 into Rish card just fine.
I definitely like this play from Todd. He could have even started it earlier, but especially with drawing the second Hydra, trying to make this trade happen makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. You got to figure the Ballista is shooting down at least 1 Thopter before damage here.
Yeah, I mean, if he can take extra damage, there's some incentive on Tim's side to actually just grow his Ballista up to a 4/4. To not use the counters immediately, but he would take extra damage by doing that, and that might just be something he's not interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So Hydras will block. Now Tim can force some energy trades, and he really should. He'll pump his Hydra. Every time Tim pumps, Todd's gonna have to pump back. And I would think if we're gonna see Tim pump, well, at least once. Now it has hexproof. I would think he's gonna go for it again.
Yeah, with these Hydras locked in combat, those 3 energy converting into Thopters, that's much more significant for Stevens.
Yeah, and there's not a risk to Tim using that last energy. Remember, once the first trigger resolves, his Hydra already has hexproof, so he doesn't have to worry about spending 3 more and then Todd harnessed lightninging in response.
Right. I've lost a lot of games to Bristling Hydra. This card's very good against spot removal.
Well, and the reason I would think we'd see, and he's going to shoot down a Thopter, Tim use energy again, is that he doesn't have any more energy outlets. But he will pass. It looks like he's going to hang on to some energy in case he top decks maybe a Siphoner.
If he finds another Hydra off the top of his deck,
yeah,
he'll have an activation left up.
Here's Todd Stevens with a replacement Hydra. And now Tim's creatures are just a little small. He lost his best blocker.
And a misstep from Tim there. He did not use his 4 mana at end step to grow the Ballista. Perhaps missing the Rishkar's mana ability.
Yeah. If you haven't played with the deck that much, that's certainly something you can miss. You generally don't use the mana ability on Rishkar, but a big draw from Tim Mueller. This could help him out too. It's Winding Constrictor. Now, on the next turn, he really would. I hope he sees that he has 8 mana, not 7. That's gonna, especially with Snake in play, that's gonna matter. Or it would have mattered if Todd hadn't drawn this.
That's a heck of a top deck glory bringer for Todd Stevens.
Couldn't cast that fast enough. Yeah, there's the dragon.
Yeah, killing the Constrictor or the Ballista, those are both real good.
It's gonna swing. Maybe even just, no, I guess you can't swing everything because yeah, you can. Here's everything.
Nothing's stopping him.
I was going to say the Ballista will become a 3/3. It's going to eat something on blocks, but that's fine.
It's possible. Okay, Todd's thinking about whether to exert or not, and even just a 4/4 flying haste.
Yeah, it doesn't have to exert here, does it?
Mm-hmm.
He will exert targeting Walking Ballista. That makes a lot of sense.
The Ballista can't grow large enough to shoot the Glory Bringer down first.
So Tim can grow it to a 3/3 and throw 3 damage around.
Yeah, that's really just cleaning. You can clean out one of the Thopters and the Rogue Refiner, which might be the most value we can clean up here. He's really going to struggle with the air game from Stevens, though.
Yeah, Tim Mueller down to 12 right now. So he'll shoot 1 Thopter. See where the last points of damage are going.
And when Stevens is comfortable just attacking with all of his non-flying creatures, the Rogue Refiner is pretty enticing. The Thopter is a problem, but just getting that some ground creature that attacks for more off the battlefield does make sense.
putting a damage onto Whirler Virtuoso, and then using the last one to kill the other Thopter.
Okay, that's nice. That lines it up so the Constrictor can jump in front of the Virtuoso, finish that off, maintain the Constrictor.
Or you can even constrict the block here. I would think he'd want Constrictor in front of Virtuoso, not Rishkar.
Right. In particular, if he puts the Constrictor in front of the Rogue Refiner.
He should switch these two blockers. He'd get to keep his Snake if he did. But I like the creatures he's choosing to block. These are the correct creatures to jump in front of. And it may really not matter here. You notice there's 10 damage unblocked going through.
Todd still has an activation on the Hydra at the ready.
Yeah.
Mueller, no cards in hand. Just a hissing Quagmire that he's working with otherwise.
Todd will make a Thopter before his Virtuoso dies. The double trade happens. And then a draw from Tim, Blossoming Defense. That's not going to do it. We go to the second game. So Todd Stevens, the 5-color Planeswalkers deck, take the first game. In a lot of ways, it really is just Teamer energy. We saw it play out there.
Yeah, and Todd drawing a pretty high volume of energy payoff and producing cards. World of Virtuoso really doing most of the work in that game. All
right, so we talked about some sweepers here in Standard, and if you look at Todd Stevens' sideboard, this is our first deck list we see to have registered some of those. Hour of Devastation is the one that speaks out, jumps out to me here. I would think this is a great matchup for the card.
It does kill pretty much all what Tim's up to. You can find yourself on the wrong side of a giant Verdurous Gearhulk. Amusingly, Todd plays some non-bolus Planeswalkers. He's got some Chandras and a Nahiri. He's got to be mindful of that. But this card does seem quite good against the green-black deck. Radiant Flames, that one's on average going to be too small. If you can get a Winding Constrictor early, it's pretty good. In a lot of situations, it's just going to kill Todd's creatures, so that one doesn't seem particularly powerful here. Tireless Tracker is something that helps him size. That's just really the mid-range king in Standard right now, so Tracker should be really powerful.
Yeah, we look over at Tim Mueller's sideboard. Yeheni's Expertise, Gonti, Heroic Intervention, Obnixilis, Sky Sovereign, Nissa Vital Force, Manglehorn, Appetite for the Natural, Never to Return, and now another one of the defeats. This is Liliana's defeat.
Tim didn't see much in the way of Planeswalkers. In fact, there were none in that first game. But you did see some Oath and Nissas, so that does make Never to Return. It also just kills these creatures.
I would assume if I was on Tim's side that I'm playing against Teamer Energy. The Oath of Nissa is not stock in Teamer Energy, and if Tim's really got a pulse on the format, he might know that something's up here.
Nissa Vital Force is pretty strong when there's kind of a mid-range battle going there, so I do like that card. Yeheni's Expertise is good against a lot of Todd's deck. It won't solve all the problems, but cleaning up World of Virtuoso could be very important for Tim.
Out of Black-Green Energy, I generally have not boarded in this matchup. This I feel like is a mid-range mirror, and when you talk about mid-range mirrors, what
Nicholas looks really good.
Yep,
Same with Sky Sovereign.
Sky Sovereign in particular is your best 5. I would say you want all your 5s. Nicholas is okay. It actually dies a lot. Like, it still might be fine. I mean, Sky Sovereign is the big winner, though.
It can be a 5-mana murder. But sometimes
it usually is, in fact.
Right. You do force combat to go a specific way, though.
So for Todd Stevens, he was your Season 1 points winner here on the SCG Tour. Originally from Denton, Texas, has recently moved to Roanoke. 9 open top 8s, including an open win for the 31-year-old. One of the bigger deck designers here on the SCG Tour, especially in Modern. You see him taking some of that flair over to Standard as well this weekend. By really the first player we've seen add Nicol Bolas to a deck.
And recently just decided to go and do Magic full time, which good for him. That's really awesome. Streams very regularly on Twitch. Of course, a writer for StarCityGames.com.
So on Star City Games, we have the StarCityGames.com newsletter. It's exclusive content here, and it's free. So you get highlights from some of our best articles, upcoming SCG Tour dates and locations. You can find out where IQs are, and also we have a different featured writer every month over on the newsletter. Some of the top players from the tour giving their advice on all things Magic. You can sign up for free at StarCityGames.com/newsletter.
It's hard to get bad value on a free exchange.
Tim Mueller, Black-Green Energy, will be on the play here for the second game. We did see Black-Green Energy as our winner last round, still being very impressive. Jadine had mentioned the hate cards was scared of, Hour of Devastation and Solemnity. Todd is playing Hour of Devastation. You've not seen anyone register Solemnity just yet.
Really the strength of the green-black deck is when it gets its synergies really humming, when you have that turn 2 Winding Constrictor kind of go off with your +1/+1 counters from there, you're really doing the biggest things in the format. But the way that we saw Game 1 play out, Tim didn't really set up Winding Constrictor in a meaningful way. It was late to the party, didn't generate much value once it showed up. Todd's cards initially, they really just hit harder individually.
Well, what I would like about the deck is it's very consistent, and I do think Tim has gotten rid of some of that in his list. I see what he's doing by going bigger with the deck. Like I mentioned, there's no Long Tusk Cubs or Rampagers. At that point, though, I'd be interested in playing a Brennan DeCandio list of the deck.
Sure, just going full Delirium on it.
Yes. There's a danger of being caught in the middle between the two archetypes. Swamp from Tim. It's a tune from Todd. See what Tim has among 2-drops. A lot of times, the tournament plays from the energy deck, you'll either see a tune or a tap land. So just a basic swamp. So he's probably got a good 2-drop here.
Yeah. There's nothing you can fatal push on the first turn. So.
Actually has no play, so. Yeah, no copies of Nissa either. Tim playing Tireless Tracker in that spot and multiple. He's playing actually, I don't know, comment on this, 4 Fatal Push and 3 Grasp of Darkness and a Never to Return. This is definitely much more controlling of a deck.
And on Todd's side, he had a second attune. He chose to leave up Harness Lightning here. If Tim has a Rishkar, getting it on this turn, going to Todd's turn and having access to more mana, that would be a really good exchange. No plays again for Tim.
I mean, this feels like he's gone towards stuff like cards like Sideboard Gonti. He's taken his, he's getting even slower post-board, is what it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, the way that Todd's developed, you know, no 2 or 3 drops on that side either. Gonti would be pretty good on turn 4 here. You can get ahead, find one of Todd's more powerful cards. You know, casting Glorybringer out of the green-black deck, especially against a deck that's got a couple Planeswalkers in it, that could be really powerful.
Looks like Tim waiting for Tireless Tracker plus land.
Like you do. And Todd's just been leaving up Harness Lightning, so this makes a lot of sense.
You know, it's interesting. You said the like you do. One of the things I've noticed with previous standard formats in Black-Green is that actually that was the wrong way to play Tireless Tracker, and that was one of the better secrets.
Yeah, if you can get some early beatdowns in. Of course, that wouldn't have worked out in this game.
Yeah, a Braid will take care of the Tireless Tracker. Well, like, it's just, it's not so bad. Like, taking the turn off is just a little much.
Sure. Of course, when your opponent is taking turns off, you've seen a lot of 2s and 3s from Todd.
Yeah, when your opponent's not doing anything either, certainly you should be suspicious. And Tim, by doing that, did end up with an extra clue token.
Right.
So some good dynamic gameplay from Tim. Oath of Nissa from Todd finds a choice between Whirler Virtuoso and Chandra Flamecaller.
Found a land as well. He's a bit light on casting the Chandra just yet, but it is the most powerful spell in the stack.
Yeah, if this game's going to be about Tireless Trackers and Braids, then I want Chandra Flamecaller, and Todd does too.
Mm-hmm.
He'll also play Servant of the Conduit, which can threaten a Chandra the very next turn.
Yeah, and depending on what Tim's able to commit, that could be game-breaking.
Yeah, if he has a Fatal Push, he may have, and you see he does, he may have to just remove this.
It doesn't make sense to sit on that one.
Tim has boarded in Yohenni's Expertise. Yeah, he is definitely taking the control role here post-board.
That Expertise, that'd be a good payoff if Todd had taken the Virtuoso there, but the way this game has been playing out, that's not going to do too much.
Well, what I'm wondering about is, once we're at this point where Tim has all of these cards, I don't see very, like, to play this mid-range strategy, which he's doing, you know, grasps, fatal pushes, Yeheni's expertises, no 2-drops. I want to see cards like Ishkana, Noxious Gearhulk, you know, finishers, and I don't see very many out of his deck.
Right.
You can't play 3 kill spells and then have your finisher be Glint Sleeve Siphoner.
Yeah, he does have a couple Planeswalkers, but the number, like you said, the volume is just too low.
Yeah, he's going to pass. He does play Siphoner, and I guess that will draw him 1 card here.
Yeah, he'll be able to crack the clue here as well.
I guess the idea is if you're going to try to, you know, kill spells plus Dark Confidant is a thing. Here's going to be Rogue Refiner from Todd. Finds him a land. Tim does have a lot of extra cards to convert now. Did not crack a clue end step, but did use his energy.
Could be sitting on that clue, you know, down the line you can use it to make a fatal push, kill a 3 or a 4.
Sure. Draws Walking Ballista and Bristling Hydra.
Currently empty on energy. The Hydra, not the most exciting card here. Still a powerful Magic card in its own right. And Tim does need to develop his board. That's really step number 1 from here.
Well, he's just doing with the Menace creature. That'll get him back 1 of those 2 energy. And we'll see what follow-up he wants.
Going into the next turn, you know, Todd will have access to 5 mana. Tim knows that Todd's playing some number of Glorybringer.
Yeah. Well, he knows about Chandra Flamecaller in Todd's hand, too.
Yeah, no evidence for Tim just yet that Todd would not have a 6th mana source.
So here's Bristling Hydra, and I do like this play from Tim. This is the play that's strongest in the face of Chandra Flamecaller. Todd, of course, doesn't have the next land. He'll just play another Rogue Refiner. Up to 10 energy. Tries him Servant to the Conduit. So some awkwardness here in Todd's hand.
Yeah, tapped all of his blue and green mana.
Harnessed Lightning, though, will shoot down the Siphoner. He's going to do that before Tim gets another card.
And that's a reasonable exchange for Todd.
Yeah. Now, the Yeheni's expertise in Tim's hand has quietly gotten very good on this board.
Very good might be strong. It would clean up 2 creatures and Tim would maintain his Hydra, though.
Yeah, I mean, about as good as I think you would want it to be.
He would have to spend his energy, though, and that leaves him vulnerable to a Glorybringer, though all he's worried about, he knows about that Chandra, which, you know, he forces that just to trade outright.
Yeah, you're right. So we'll see if he makes that play. It would be very bad in the face of a Glorybringer.
And you and I know, Tim doesn't. Todd has that card.
Right, I mean, if all Tim knows about is the Chandra, that play looks great against Chandra. And that's what he's going to do. I think he's going for it. It makes sense. It's going to get hit very hard by the Glorybringer, though. Well, hold on. Actually, there's a Rishkar in his hand. No, it might actually be safe through Glorybringer as well.
Yep, that would get him up to 5
yeah,
toughness.
no, this is just a good play.
And given that you want to pre-combat the expertise anyway, you're not really losing out on much damage by casting both of those spells.
Yeah, this is great. Here's Yeheni's expertise. So all the creatures get -3/-3. The Hydra's now down to a 2/1. And here's the Rishkar for free off the expertise. And this means the Hydra, well, this turn, the Hydra is considerably smaller. It's a 3/2. But next turn, it's going to be a 6/5. And that 5th point is really what's important.
Puts it ahead of Chandra and Glorybringer.
And Todd will have to find an answer. Nahiri was the draw. He does have an Oath of Nissa in play. A perfect spot for this Planeswalker. Great draw from Todd. And the Harbinger will exile away the Hydra.
Actual perfect would have been that Hour Devastation, but Nahiri is really nice.
You know, what I'm still hoping for, if you look over at Todd's hand, he's got the Nicol Bolas in his hand.
Yeah, and the Oath of Nissa gives him the requisite colors, just shy on mana sources.
I don't think he can't even cast. Can he cast it without an Oath in play?
Ether Hub, I suppose, is the only line.
So no. Servant of the... Okay, so it'd be a big stack of servants and hubs.
Right.
That No.
He's only using that to get the black mana, though. He has blue and red mana, kind of a high abundance of that.
Here is Walking Ballista we see from Mueller. And Rishkar will attack away Nahiri. A pair of 3/3s, though, is all Tim's left. An untapped mana from Todd would be mighty nice, though he's not going to hit it.
Well, the Chandra is actually not as good necessarily as the Glorybringer here, because you want to take care of the Ballista and have your permanent left over. The Glorybringer actually does that. You know, Todd will take some damage off the Ballista, but he'll maintain the permanent that did the damage. He's actually eyeing Harness Lightning, too. You know, just saving this for one of his bigger payoff cards. That is an option.
That makes sense, too. We'll see where he wants to go. He'll just go with the dragon. Here's 4/4 Glorybringer. And he's got to take care of the Ballista this turn, and he will. Otherwise, he would lose. Otherwise, the Ballista would hit 5/5.
Right.
3 damage across, though, to Todd. He goes to 12. The dragon still exerts, so Todd's not safe just yet. Draw here from Mueller. 1 card in hand is a land. Be his 8th. Without that Ballista, there's not much he can do with these extra lands. Well, here's one, though. Tireless Tracker was the pickup, land and clue. Swing from Rishkar. Pass. Now, is there a reason to not just crack the clue immediately?
I imagine, you know, you'd want to crack it so you can find some main phase 2 or 3 mana creature that you cast straight away.
Attune the draw from Todd. He gets closer to that Bolus. He gets a turn away from the Chandra no matter what. But he's down to 9 life points. He has to be concerned here. Harness Lightning is in hand. That can clean up one of the creatures. Glorybringer will untap next turn. That can clean up another one.
You got to figure that Harness Lightning is going to be going for this Tireless Tracker here. Can't let that one hang around.
If he can get that untapped mana next turn, Todd has this guy in his hand. +2. He exiles a card off Tim's deck.
Until he finds a spell to cast for free.
Okay, I like that.
+1, kind of a minor artifact. That's not going to play here.
Not big here.
-4 deals 7 damage to a creature or to Tim. That's not bad.
I like that. And then mine is a lot to do something really great.
Yeah, forget about that. I don't think that's the game we're going to see here.
That's for the Commander games.
It's all non-land permanents you don't control.
Oh, that definitely sounds like a Commander.
Yeah.
Everybody, all my opponents?
You probably got 3 or 4 players attacking you. Or rather, your Nicol Bolas if you're going for that.
I like that less. Winding Constrictor from Tim. Looks like he did pick up double spell there. I'm going to crack that clue. Here is Rishkar, the 3/3. Todd going to chump block with Servant of the Conduit. Interesting.
Tim has access to a lot of mana, and he's playing Walking Ballista, so Todd's just respecting that.
Well, yeah, the Servant represented Nicol Bolas, which I guess I just like the flashy play too much. Chandra's probably better.
Chandra's pretty hard to beat here.
I wanted him to play Nicol Bolas.
There's also just one of those situations where you give away a mana source, but you can find one on top of your deck anyway.
And here is Chandra Flame Caller from Todd Stevens. First thing's going to try the -3. Does that work? It does. No need to exert Glorybringer. It can just attack. Tim to 11.
Stevens pretty firmly in the driver's seat now.
If this game ends before he casts the Nicol Bolas, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Well, Chandra plus the Glorybringer doesn't end the game outright on the following turn.
Good,
but
so there's still time.
I believe Todd has Lumbering Falls, though, if he wants to go for that.
Absolutely not. You need to play Bolas, 7 your opponent, and then hit them with the Glorybringer. If you activate... You're right, though. He has the onboard lethal. I
think a Grasp of Darkness in Tim's hand, though. That will help your Nicol Bolas.
There we go. We want the dragon. Here's Grasp on that dragon. I want the bigger dragon, the Planeswalker dragon. Come on, untapped land. Oh. Long Tusk Cub.
You could use... if he uses Chandra to discard his hand, he'll discard the Nicol Bolas.
That doesn't do it either.
That wouldn't help him find the land.
Chandra will bring 2 3/1s.
And the land last turn for Tim, it was the Hissing Quagmire. So that would potentially allow Tim to attack into the Chandra. A little harder now. Long Tusk Cub and Bristling Hyder joining the fray for Todd Stevens.
Going to get some tokens that don't trample out there. There we go. Not that it matters. Not on this board.
Right. Todd has a very lethal attack on the following turn. Just a Hissing Quagmire plus some mystery card for Tim. Looks like a Grasp of Darkness, though more than enough energy for the Bristling Hydra there. No
and Tim
Nicol
extends the hand to just your run-of-the-mill teamer energy deck. Nothing. Todd Stevens wins the match, 2-0.
Todd politely does not show Tim that he had Nicol Bolas in his hand.